I'm trying to show you here is that we have entered a very, very dangerous phase in this trend cycle. You and I have to retain confidence that these mere mortals actually know what they're doing. Their job is to keep you in these markets to make it easier to rob you. I'm Lynette Zang, founder and CEO of Zang Enterprises. We support community and sound money globally. So today we're going to talk about the wonderful central bankers. And I'm saying that tongue in cheek because there's something that's happening in this arena that we really need to be aware of, since it's, for me, it spells danger, danger, danger. So make sure that you subscribe, hit that like button on the way in, leave us a message, and let's just dive right in. And I'm going to take you back in history a little bit, not very far back, but you might recall that after the 2008 financial crisis, this global central banks shifted and were letting the banks know through forward guidance what they were going to do so that they could get into position to take advantage of what the central bankers were going to do. In 2015, with the Swiss surprise, after the Swiss central bank had vowed that they were going to retain that peg, the Swiss franc to the euro. And then on the 15th, in 2015, January 15th, they broke that peg. And the Swiss franc jumped 30% after they made that choice. But the big thing about that was central banks now knew that any central bank could do what was ever in their best interest to do. And this created a problem. So there are layers of confidence in this con game, and it is significant that you understand where we are. Because in 2008, it was bank-to-bank confidence that was lost when interbank lending, one bank lending to another, collapsed, and they no longer report that. This was when the central banks knew that they could no longer just trust that all of the central banks would do what they collectively had agreed to. This was a very big deal, but it kind of went to sleep for a little while until just recently. And we've talked about this in the bank before, but where the Swiss National Bank unexpectedly cut rates in the first for advanced economies. So what this means is that the central banks are no longer working in a synchronized fashion. And what happened in 2015 was not just a little blip, it was a warning. And remember, central banks like distance between their policy and how that is introduced, because they never want you to turn around and point a finger to them. You and I have to retain confidence that these mere mortals actually know what they're doing, when it should be quite clear to everybody right now that they don't. They're just throwing stuff up on the wall to see if it sticks, or, which is, in my opinion, more likely, they are leading us into this crisis. And what they want to do is control the implosion so they stay in charge afterwards. What I want us to do is take back control and have a foundation of sound money so that they can't abuse us with their rapid money printing again. That's what we've got to do. We've got to come together and say, no, this is not going to happen on our watch, because it matters what happens to the children. And this creates a dangerous misstep, because they are only human. They are not gods. They don't know what they're doing. They're trying anything. But the reality is we are at the end of this experiment's life cycle. And we have to shift into a new system. And we are already, this isn't something I'm waiting for. This has already begun. So how prepared are you going to be when it becomes more obvious? This should make it very obvious. In my opinion, this makes it really obvious to me. And I've been watching this synchronization and watching it fall apart. So now what they're talking about, they're admitting it. This is a big deal because it's like when this whole thing collapses, you can't say, well, you didn't tell us. Well, yeah, they're warning us. Two-speed world weighs on G7. The G7 are the 7th largest economies in the world. So two-speed world weighs on G7 with inflation fading unevenly. Inflation is not fading at all. It's sticky, right? That means that it's hanging around and it's higher than they want you, than even the way they're communicating it. And you know they use what's called hedonics to make things look the way they want them to look. This tells me that they are losing control of this circumstance, and that is a very big deal. A two-speed global economy skewed by U.S. strength, it's a joke, is overshadowing this week's Group of Seven meeting as officials confront the prospect of a less synchronized monetary policies. And what they're really saying to you, it is now every country for itself, because they can no longer work together. Their synchronization is not working, so boop, done. They are admitting it. This is what we've known since 2015. Now they can no longer hold it together. This is such a big deal. I can't even tell you what a big deal that this is. But they talk about the U.S. G7's growth engine with the debt levels exploding. It's not just that these aren't sustainable. They haven't been sustainable in a very, very long time because the debt is compounding interest. So if you have a credit card and you're not touching your principal and you're not paying all of your interest, guess what happens to that interest? It goes into the principal and you are paying interest on top of interest on top of interest. And I cannot give you a lot of guarantees, but this one I can absolutely give you. If you aren't paying all the interest on your debt and that interest is now compounding, you ain't ever getting out of debt. It is that simple. And to think that the U.S. is the growth engine, well, for those of us that live in the U.S., what do you think? Do you think inflation has gone away because they're calling it so sticky? Yeah, it's sticky because they've put so much of this crap into the system. And while they talk about tightening, I've shown you many times, the system is as loose as it's ever been. So yeah, inflation isn't going away. In fact, in my personal opinion, I believe very strongly that we have begun the hyperinflation. You just haven't noticed it yet. But the economic outlook remains subject to risks amid the threat of escalating geopolitical tensions and volatile energy prices. So that means that they're going to use this to say, oh, look, it's not us doing this. Heaven forbid. No. Look at the geopolitical tensions. Look at the problems in the energy markets. Yeah, guess what? That is used over and over. In fact, every single time currencies go away, and there's over 4,800, they'll use things like war and they'll point fingers. They never, ever look in the mirror. They never, ever take responsibility for their crimes. And yes, this is a crime because they are robbing you of your work, of your time. What else do you really have, right? You can't save it. You can't do anything with it. But they're going to point fingers and they're going to blame everything else other than that. And inflation's faster trend may linger over 2024. Guess what? Inflation is rearing its ugly head again because they continue to do this whether you realize it or you do not. And so that's why they're calling it sticky. But these bars are consumer price index and the core CPI. So let's take out food and energy because Lord knows none of us use that on a daily basis, right? And let's take that out, and you can see that inflation continues to go up. In fact, in Europe, in Germany, they just got a very higher than anticipated inflation read, and that makes it harder for the ECB to lower rates. None of that matters. What I'm trying to show you here is that we have entered a very, very dangerous phase in this trend cycle. Because, of course, we've seen central bankers be right about everything, right? Not at all. Their job is to keep you in these markets to make it easier to rob you. My job is to help you get out of these markets, get to safety, sound money. Gold, the only financial instrument that runs no counterparty risk. The only one, not one of two, not one of five. The only one. Get to safety, get there as quickly as you can, just like we're seeing the central banks do. Our super core CPI measure, which is core services ex rents, which means not including rents, accelerated to a concerning 6.8% on a 3-month annualized pace as inflation trends have shifted in the wrong direction. Well, guess what? It never went away. And even when they talk about inflation is dropping, that is just a slower speed for the prices to go up. You know that. You experience it every single time you go to the grocery store, right? This trend is not going away. And inflation is not under control. Not. Because that's the only thing they have. It's either inflation or deflation. Right? That's the same. It's just the flip side, but it's the same coin. It doesn't matter. If they make monetary policy truly tight, then what happens to all of those corporations that have already entered that debt wall that is already imploding? It makes it much faster. It makes it much worse. They don't have many choices, and it doesn't matter what they do. If they keep rates the way they are, it's still all of that debt has to roll over, and they couldn't afford it when it was at 0. You think they're going to be able to afford it at 5%? Right? So all of that eruption is yet in our future. And it isn't just the debt. It's all of those derivative products that are built on top of it that are opaque, that we cannot see, but that is all about leverage, which is debt upon debt upon debt upon debt upon debt. And you have this itty bitty teeny weeny equity down at the bottom. This is not good. And inflation is not under control, as we're seeing. And of course, I have to take you back to the biz. What share for gold on the interaction of gold and foreign exchange reserves? So when they say foreign exchange reserves, that's all the currencies from all the countries around the world that countries are holding in reserve, right? None of these, I mean, I've got a few of the US bills in here, but they are going the same way that all those other currencies went, the way of the dodo bird. They're not going to exist anymore. They can keep the name, but let's look at what the Bank for International Settlements, which is the central bank's central bank, the biggest bank in the world. Number one, first, gold is free of default risk, the only financial asset that is free of default risk. Number two, gold kept at home is not subject to political manipulation. So all of these geopolitical issues that are happening around you, if you keep this at home, it's invisible. If you don't believe their lies, you are not subject to that manipulation. I've been in these markets on some level, really, my whole life. I am not subject to their manipulation because I know the truth. And I've been groomed for this moment in time so I can help you see the truth as well. Third, gold has been empirically proven to serve as an inflation hedge. And you better have an inflation hedge because we are at the end and the only choice is hyperinflation. That is the only choice that is left. So you need something that can protect you from that hyperinflation, and only gold can do that. Only gold can do that. Lastly, its most widely recognized feature is its potential value in highly adverse scenarios. Those black swans, they are flying all over the place. Which one is going to hit? Which one is going to be the one thing that topples everything? Could be any number. But the level of derivatives and big fat bets, understand this is how banks make most of their money now. And prior to 2008, central banks barely participated in the derivative market. Now that derivative market, that big leverage bet, opaque that you can't convert into anything, that has overwhelmed the whole market. It's infiltrated throughout the system. So if you're holding your wealth in these markets, that's where they want it to be, because when these markets implode and they take everything with it, and even if they explode upward in a flight to safety, all you can do is convert it into this junk. That's all you can do. So when this is the same as this Bolivar, you cannot buy anything with it. You can have a gazillion of them. What difference does it make? You can't buy eggs. Food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. And this is why community has become the biggest topic for me to talk about, because we do not have the luxury of time. And for one person to pull everything together, I mean, I've been working on it hard since 2010. And do I feel like I'm 100% ready? No, I'm more ready than most anybody else I know. But do I feel really completely ready? No, I do not. So if you're going to start now, there's a learning curve. That's why we have to come together in local community. And that should be, in my opinion, that should be the highest priority that you have, is to go out and create and find your community. Find your people that can come together to get through this. Then it's sound money. Because if we do not have a foundation of sound money and we're relying on these central bankers to keep us safe, look at what a job they've done so far. I don't want them to have all this power on the other side of this reset and this mess. I want us to have that power. And we can take it back quietly and peacefully just by converting that garbage fiat into sound money. Get it done. If you were waiting and you think, oh, gold's going to be cheaper, just get it done. I never really care what the spot price says. I don't care even how much I have to pay for these, for the ones that I feel give me another level of protection and also typically outperform bullion. I don't care about any of that, because I know that the true fundamental value of an ounce of gold is in excess of 40 grand. And what that means is, were they to do that overnight revaluation today, there is a very good chance that gold would go somewhere near that level. So when I can buy something for $3,000, $5,000, $20,000, $30,000, rock and roll hoochie coo, I'm all over that, because I know the truth. And that's what I try and show you with all of these videos. Don't take my word for any of it. I give you the links. Do your own due diligence. If you come to different conclusion than I've come, I cannot say that your opinion is less valid than mine. But I have been studying this on some level seriously since 1964. And I've been studying currencies and currency life cycles seriously since 1987. I have been groomed for this moment in time, and I am here to be of service to you. I am here to share the gifts that I have been given, which is an understanding of what's really happening inside of the system. And all of us here at Zang Enterprises are here to be of service and help you create your own strategy. Wherever you are in the world, that's why you see me sharing more and more of it. because I don't care where you are. I don't care who you get your gold and silver from. I don't care what form it happens to be in, because gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base. And it can be broken, it can be dinged, it can be bent, it can be, who cares? None of that is relevant. What's relevant is that you have some sound money foundation and you are inside of a supportive community. So we can come together, say, nope, we do not like your stupid fiat money system that is about enslaving us and making us poor and robbing us of our time and our work. Nope, that's not okay with me. And this fight isn't just about you or me. This fight is about the generations to come. And understand, when I refer to my babies and my grandbabies, etc., I'm really thinking about everybody out there. Because we have to come together. We are not islands. We have to come together. We have to help each other. We have to work together. And that even means the people that don't understand and cannot bring themselves to see what is happening. We have to have patience with them. And we have to prepare for them as well as ourselves. Because soon enough, they will see the truth. And if we wait and we don't prepare for them now, then you're not going to have enough to help them on the other side. So let's go back, and I'm sorry I kind of got on my soapbox there. But that's how important it is, and that's how close we are. This is why central banks are buying gold, because they know that the system is collapsing, and they know that sound money is the only way that they stay in power, that they retain their freedom, that they can live to fight another day and rebuild. And it is exactly the same reason why you and I should be positioning into gold and into silver. So this is why central bankers are buying gold and why you should too. But let's look at that a little bit more closely, because what you're looking at are the gold holdings between 99 and 2022, right? They bottomed here in 2007, and boy, since the great financial crisis, they have just been moving upward ever since then. Can you see this? What do you think? What do you think they might know that you don't? Well, let's take a look. Because even going into the first quarter of 2024, they are buying gold. Central bankers are buying gold like crazy. So they finished at an all-time high in 22, and in 23 we know that exploded, and here we are in 24. They're following the same pattern. This is the first quarter. It looks like we're going to do more than we did even last year. What do you think they might know that you don't? Gold is central bankers' money bunker. They are getting to safety. It's also your money bunker. Get to safety as quickly as possible. I want to thank all of you for helping me create this community here on this channel, and for helping spread the word. And hopefully something will start to shift these people, because I'm never giving up. Ever. So join me in this fight, because I 100% know that together we can make a positive difference for a lot of people. So until next we meet, call us, email us. We are all here to be of service. Join our community, help spread the word. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.